All right, I'm going to be giving you guys a rundown of the Thoughtly platform, and this is just going to be a complete speed run of all the capabilities on the platform. Not going to be going crazy in depth about the functionality of everything, just going to be giving you a speed run of how the platform does operate. So first things first, you're going to go to thoughtly.com. You're going to come onto this page. If you don't have an account already, you're going to click sign in, and then there's going to be a sign up button underneath it. If you do have an account, it'll bring you directly to your account. Now, when you sign into Thoughtly, you are immediately brought into this dashboard. This shows you kind of all of the deployments, all of the minutes, and all of the responses that you're getting from your voice agents just at a glance. Now, keep in mind, our main objective is that you don't have to come in here and look for analytics on our platform. Instead, all of this information does get automated to the systems that you're already using. So whether that's HubSpot, Salesforce, GHL, or any other CRM out there, our goal is going to be to export this information so you could view all the analytics on your CRM or whatever platform it is that you do use. So with that, on this overview page, you got the responses of all of your agents, the total minutes that you've used for the month, and the deployments, as well as a percentage of what it looks like from the month previous. You also have your usage right here that shows you the agents that are going to be taking up most of your usage, and the deployments here of where your credits are being spent. Once again, very friendly view, but the main goal is to be exporting this information to external platforms. The next tab is going to be the agent tab. This is going to be where you find all the agents that you have built. You can see the live agents as well as your archived agents, and you can create a new agent right here. Now, I'm not going to create a new agent right now. Instead, I'll just show you guys an agent that's already been built. Here is going to be one of our agents. Now, this does look very deterministic. It almost looks like an IVR system. One thing I want you to keep in mind, although it looks very deterministic, this agent is extremely conversational and dynamic in the way that it speaks. We only use this mind map type of builder to input our script and kind of give an agent a understanding of where you want to go. We like to call this the happy path. Keep in mind, as we say one of these nodes, we are looking for outcomes. So we have our start node here that says, hey, James, this is Sam. I'm calling from Loot. I'm calling because your business, whatever that might be, ABC Insurance has officially been funded. Have you seen the funds hit your account yet? We're looking for two answers here, yes or no. If they say, where are you guys located? What business is this? I want a ham sandwich, whatever it might be. The agent is smart enough and dynamic enough to answer that question and bring the conversation back on track when needed. It's a friendly conversation, but with your objective in mind. So we make it very simple with your happy path. We're looking for a yes or a no. If we get a yes, we're then going to go to our speak node here, where it says, that's great. Do you mind if I send you a text message to leave us a review? Keep in mind, inside one of these speak nodes, we can have a message or we could have a prompt. So this prompt could say, ask the caller if we could send them a link. It could say, capture their email and phone number and then ask to send them a link. This is just prompting the LLM instead of setting a message. I like messages personally because keep in mind, although this is a message node, it's not saying it verbatim. It's saying it to match the context of the conversation. If you do want it to say verbatim, we do have settings that you could say it exactly how it's listed out, but if not, it uses kind of your script in order to manipulate it and make it sound natural throughout the conversation. Now, we also have a setting here called disabled interruption. This allows you to have the agent not hear the caller when it's saying something. This way, it cannot get interrupted when it's in the middle of its speech. This is helpful when you have to get like disclaimers out and you can't get interrupted by the caller. We also have the ability to read numbers. So if you're saying a phone number, it doesn't say 1,526,000. Instead, it says 1564 instead of kind of saying the whole entire number out loud. Our outcomes here, which then lead to another node. So we have yes, the caller wants to leave a review, or no, the caller doesn't. Once again, if the conversation ever deviates, we answer those questions, we take care of any concerns, and then we do our best to get the conversation back on track. We also have our rules here, which kind of sets parameters for each one of these speak nodes. I'm going to be getting into this action node, this action module right here in the next node here. For when the caller says yes, we then have our action, which is going to be sending a text message. Keep in mind, these actions could do a whole lot, like send a prompt to an AI, book an appointment, update your CRM, do some if-else statements, some random outcomes. So you do some A/B testing, create a contact inside your CRM, delete the contact, directly integrates to all of these. Maybe you want to send a Slack message. Maybe you want to add something inside of a smart sheet. Perhaps you want to do something internally inside of Thoughtly, or maybe you can't find something here. You could just send a webhook. But in this example, we're going to be sending a text message where we give them a link to leave us a review. We give them a little message to leave us that 5-star review. Once this is sent, the agent will then speak to its next node saying, all right, I just sent it to you. Your review is appreciated. Do you have any other questions before I go? Keep in mind, this person might have more questions about the business and whatnot. It's not going to hang up the call right after. It's very smart and it knows to answer those questions before hanging up the call. So what it will do is it will use its knowledge base to answer the questions how you like. If it's not in the knowledge base, it will use its knowledge as an LLM to answer those questions. So the knowledge base is also known as a genius. That's something I'll actually be going over once I'm done with the review of this agent builder. That's the basics of building an agent. Very simple. To end the conversation, you just simply put an end node here, put in your end message. From there, it'll end that conversation. Now, I want to touch on some of the settings before I move on to the next tab here. So as I mentioned, our genius is going to be found right here. This is where you tie in the knowledge base to the agent. This is going to be an important part as well to kind of configuring the agent's ability to handle conversations exactly how you'd like. We could set a personality here, which you could also do through rules and advanced prompts and things like that. But this allows you to have a slider, to have its assertiveness, its humor, its sensitivity threshold, which is really interesting because this allows you to kind of have the agent hear the caller in certain ways. So if I'm calling into a construction site, I'm going to want it to be higher because that means it's less likely to pick up background noise. If I'm calling into a library, I'm going to have it lower because that means that it's really listening intently. So it switches the agent's ability to hear background noise. So that's something you can also toggle with to make your agent's sensitivity threshold vary. We have our small talk, which I'd recommend to keep this off. This is just when the agent is completing an action, it will do small talk. But if this is turned off, it will just put it on hold music. I actually prefer the hold music. So if this text message is taking long to execute, it will simply put it on hold music. If you want it to be small talk, you can do that here. We have our silence timeouts. Before it tries to re-engage the caller, how many seconds does it wait? So if it doesn't hear a noise, right now it's going to wait 4,000 milliseconds, but we could set this to 30 seconds. So if we're troubleshooting something and the caller needs to go get some information, it will not try to re-engage that caller if it doesn't hear them until 4,000 milliseconds. Utterance end and silence retries. Once again, playing into the silence factor, how many times should it retry to get the caller back on the phone before it just hangs up? Right now we have it to 4. We could set it all the way to 8. So that is going to be the presence. I also didn't mention that there is interim audio here, which is kind of typing on the keyboard for that latency period, and our background audio, which isn't quite live yet for v1.8, but this allows you to have like office noises in the background and kind of makes it like a human touch. Now, the next thing I'll touch on is going to be the post-call settings that you can play with here. This allows you to turn on and off email notifications for when a call goes out and when you receive a notification after a Thoughtly session. We also have our dispositions, which allows you to tag the conversations exactly how you'd like. So, for example, we have caller not interested, or maybe we can make one here that says transferred. Then we would write a description for what the agent should look out for when something's transferred. So you could say the agent successfully transferred to a representative, and whatever might give a description that the agent could read through the transcript and know that it's been transferred. This allows for accurate dispositions to be placed after a call. Once again, could be exported to your CRM and you can view it all there. The next thing I'll touch on is voicemails. Extremely simple. If you're making outbound calls, you want to leave a voicemail to this caller, simply turn that on and leave a message. From there, it'll read directly from this box, leave that message, and then hang up the call. The last thing I'll touch on is going to be advanced settings. I have one advanced setting here. This is basically like an overarching prompt for the entire conversation. So for this one, I say you oftentimes say and ah to sound more human-like. You could also say things like, if the caller ever asks if you're an AI, tell them that you are a helpful AI assistant. This goes for anything that might come up in the conversation. You could set the personality, give it a kind of sense of self here inside the advanced settings. So there's many different ways that you can configure this advanced prompt here in order to give it a sense of self, give it its kind of role and what it should be pursuing, and any overarching prompts throughout the conversation. Now that's going to be the agent builder. If you want to test your agent and you don't want it to just call you and you kind of test it that way, you can come here to test agent and just text the agent. So it is a little bit easier and it saves some time there. Now that's going to be the agent side of things. I'll then jump into our genius here. This is the knowledge base that you are going to be inputting. So the agent becomes knowledgeable about your particular business. The way we're going to do that is by adding a data source. We could add a couple of different sources here, including text, some previous call recordings, and audio files, PDF, CSVs, and URLs of your business. One thing I will mention, this is how we conceptualize information in the Genius. When I put in a URL, for example, I put in the Thoughtly URL here, it's going to look through the entire URL and it will break this down into Q&As. So if somebody ever asks, like, what's the main purpose of Thoughtly? It'll take the direct copy from our website to answer those questions. Keep in mind, the person doesn't have to ask these questions verbatim. It will just search through its knowledge base to find the best answer based on the sources that you uploaded. Another great use case is like if you have audio files of some call recordings that your representatives have done, it could search through those and handle objections the way that your reps have. So that's going to be the Genius. Very easy, very self-explanatory. Throw in all your knowledge base and your agent will become knowledgeable in your business. Next thing I'll touch on here is going to be our automations builder. This allows you to build automations natively on our platform. So the way we're going to do that is by creating an automation here. You can name the automation first. Let's call this a trigger of a call. So let's say we don't see any of the triggers from your particular CRM. What we'll do is we will actually send a webhook inside of the platform by taking the URL, putting it inside your CRM, and then activating a call automatically from your CRM. The way we'll do this is we will create or update a contact inside of Thoughtly from the payload that's received in this webhook. We'll put the name that was inside of this payload. Keep in mind that this would be a drop-down once you actually activate this. We'll choose the phone number that we're going to be calling, or that's going to be associated with the caller. Once again, would be found inside that payload when you do that. And then we have just created a contact or updated a contact inside of Thoughtly. Next, we want to call that contact. If you want to avoid this step, you could just directly call the number, but this way we could actually pass through all of that information. Then we're going to come here, select the ID, select the agent, and we could pass in metadata. So we could bring up some valuable information found inside that payload. Maybe this person's address. That was obviously what is going to be found inside of this webhook if you pass it through. And then we could bring up this person's address inside of the call using double bracket metadata dot address. And this way we could say, hey, is this James? James says yes. We could then say, oh, James, are you still living at metadata dot address? And it will say the metadata that was found inside of this call. Another thing you could do here is set the amount of calls that you want to be sending off if the person doesn't answer. So maybe we want to send off 8 calls every, and the time delay should be 5 hours. So we're going to do 8 attempts every 5 hours until we get that answer. Now, that's going to be a triggering automation that triggers off calls. To send data back, very simple. You're going to be doing on call completed, getting that data from the call, which does include transcript, summary, recording URL, and tags. And you could pass that into a webhook back to your software, or you could do it from our native integrations here. But let's say you don't see that here. You could just send a webhook to whatever software it is that you use, send it back that way. Maybe you want some exact information from this conversation. We could do that in one of 2 ways. We could either extract those fields by inputting the transcript here and reading through the transcript and getting the information, or we could run a custom prompt to get that specific data before sending it to your webhook. If that's confusing, trust me, I get it. It was confusing for a long while for me, getting into the automations, but once you get the hang of it, you start opening so many doors for yourself. So I'll be explaining this more in depth in videos to come, but that's going to be our automation builder. Extremely helpful in building your agents. Will save you a ton of money with things like make.com and N8N. So with automations out of the way, I want to touch on our next tab here, which is going to be our voice library. Now, our voice library consists of a direct partnership with 11 Labs and Cartesia, which are the 2 main AI voice companies that provide us the best-in-class voices. This way, you have access directly to their library, and you could use these voices directly inside of your Thoughtly conversations. The way we would do that is by searching for a voice that we're looking for. Maybe we want a young male. Search that here and see some young males that you could choose from. You could preview them here. You could save them here. Once you save them, you could also star them, so you could favorite them so you find them easily. But once you save them, you could come to your agent builder, click on voices, and you'll be able to see your voice populate right here. Now, if you save it, it'll be right here. It'll show you exactly where it's being sourced from. And we also have our default voices you could choose here. Maybe you even want Santa Claus answering your phones. I don't know. Some people like that. You do Santa Claus right here, and we have Santa Claus who could actually answer your phones for you. Let's say you don't like the tens of thousands of voices that you could choose directly on our platform. You can clone your own voice. Now, if you don't like your own voice, it's no problem. You could actually upload a file of somebody else's voice. So you really have no excuse not to like our voices at Thoughtly. We got tens of thousands. You could choose which one suits you best. The next thing I'll touch on, and perhaps this will be the second to last thing I'll show, is going to be our phone numbers. This allows you to purchase phone numbers directly on the Thoughtly platform, so you don't have to worry about working with Twilio or Telnix. Keep in mind, we do have direct partnerships with Twilio and Telnix, so if you do have your own numbers inside of there, you can actually port them directly into our platform. However, if you want to just buy a number, you come here to buy a number, you type in your area code, you type in the country you want, and you'll see a drop down of some numbers you can choose from. I mean, let's try, see if we got any 909 numbers. Look at that, we got plenty. So you could choose exactly what works best for you inside of here and then purchase it directly on our platform. If not, feel free to just port in your own Twilio or Telnix number, and you could use it that way. We actually do caller ID as well, so you can handle branded calling to avoid any of the spam calls or like potential spam hazards that you get on those calls. We actually do caller ID here as well. We would be able to kind of cover up anything related to spam calling and any concerns about who's calling them, because it would actually show your business name with your numbers. The last thing I will show you, although this is not the most important thing, this allows you access directly to all of your call recordings if you click on library. When you click on, let's view one of these here that didn't go to voicemail. So we got one here. That was a pretty simple call. It gives you a summary, it gives you the transcript, gives you the information of this contact. It'll also give you the contact's information right here. And you'll be able to view it directly here inside the platform. Now, as I mentioned previously, our objective is that you don't have to view analytics here. So with the automations, you can actually export all this information into your CRM and view it directly into the platforms that you already use. But with that being said, that's all I'm pretty much going to show you. I could show you integrations of everything we integrate into. I could show you batch jobs that allow you to conduct a mass number of calls on our platform with an Excel sheet or a CSV. But I think I'm going to end it with the functionality here. That's going to be the speed run of our platform. Very, very dynamic platform that allows you to do everything related to AI voice agents. So that's going to be a speed run of the platform. If you intend on building agents for your business or others, I'd recommend coming to thoughtly.com, clicking sign in. And if you don't have an account, sign up for a new one there. Once you're inside your trial account and you love what you're using, we can get you ramped up on Thoughtly and getting you building agents extremely efficiently. With that, I hope you guys enjoyed this rundown of the Thoughtly platform, and I look forward to seeing you guys inside.